As the danger of a further explosion, or for that matter of a total meltdown of the reactor at Chernobyl, no longer exists. The officials say that the cleanup crews will now turn their attention to other tasks. These supposedly are going to prevent any further damage. They're going to do this, they say, by burying the reactor in concrete. This morning we are joined in Montreal by Dr. Gordon Edwards. He's a mathematical physicist and former head of the Canadian Coalition for Nuclear Responsibility. Good morning, Dr. Edwards.
Good morning, Norm. How are you?
Just fine, thank you. Any reason to disagree with the Soviets when they say that the main danger has been eliminated at Chernobyl?
No, I don't think there's any reason on this side to disagree with that. Of course, we have to realize that you can't shut off a nuclear fire. So that what's happening is that there still is heat being generated in the reactor, but the important thing is to reach a stage where the heat is being removed at least as fast as it's being produced.
Okay, now one of the things that they're doing is pouring sand on this reactor, and as well they're going to pour concrete underneath the reactor, I gather, to make sure that it doesn't have, you don't have an actual meltdown and the radioactive material goes into the water. Is that, have any guarantees of working?
Well, there's no guarantees, okay, but it is a good idea to try and encase the reactor so that at least temporarily no more radiation will be released. Of course, you have to realize that this material inside the reactor remains dangerous for millions of years, and so the concrete is going to last for how long? Perhaps 20 years, 30 years, but at least temporarily it certainly is some assurance.
Is there any assurance that we will no longer have a core meltdown?
There is never a complete assurance of that, Norm, because the nuclear reactor continues to generate heat, and unless that heat is carried away, the temperature will go up, and the temperature can reach any temperature you care to mention, so that it can reach the melting point. What they are saying is that they have reached a stage now where the temperatures are dropping. That means the heat is being removed faster than it's being produced.
But you say it could take millions of years before the danger of the radiation is eliminated, right?
Well, that's because of the variety of substances. Some of these substances, for example, everyone's heard about iodine-131, which has a half-life of 8 days. But iodine-129 has a half-life of 17 million years.
Wow.
And plutonium has a half-life of 24,000 years. And so there are many very long-lived substances. They constitute only a fraction of the total, but they're very poisonous.
What does that mean, then, for permanent damage that has been done in that area?
Well, it means very serious, because as it was pointed out back in 1976, if there had been nuclear accidents of this type in Europe back at the time of the Second World War, large parts of Europe would remain uninhabitable today. And in fact, there is a very large section of the Soviet Union which is uninhabitable today as a result of a 1957 accident.
Well, with this cleanup operation, are they basically playing this by ear? Are they, in effect, doing what they think they should be doing, but with no precedent to base it on?
Yes, that's exactly right. They have no precedent to base it on.
Does that mean that in Canada we should still be particularly concerned? We've heard about the radioactive rain that fell in Ottawa. There was some concern apparently about the water system in Coquitlam, British Columbia, although that may have been just something wrong with the registry in Coquitlam. What are your thoughts on that?
The main problem here is not getting it into your body, and of course this is difficult because we eat, we drink, we breathe, and you see the external radiation exposure is so low that it isn't anything to worry about. But for example, when they say don't drink rainwater, it's because you can then get radioactive material inside your body which continues to irradiate internally. And that's the main problem with contaminated food also from the European Common Market. They're trying to see whether they can prevent contaminated food from getting on the market.
Should we be taking iodine pills here in Canada?
No, we shouldn't be taking iodine pills, but we also should not be complacent. For example, the authorities in Ottawa who are telling us there is no harm are going against all scientific evidence, because every scientific study that's ever been done says that there is no such thing as a safe level of radiation. And I think it's a little irresponsible to say there's no harm, particularly when at the very same time they are currently trying to relax the radiation standards. They're currently trying to make it permissible to expose members of the public to higher levels of radioactive materials. This is a document from the Atomic Energy Control Board which was issued only a couple of days after the Chernobyl accident.
Dr. Edwards, thank you for talking with us this morning.
You're very welcome.
Dr. Gordon Edwards is the former director of the Canadian Coalition for Nuclear Responsibility.